Hello YouTube, welcome to this fine day, and today we are going to have a look at Birgi, God of Storytelling in Historic Brawl. This deck aims to win by playing a bunch of zero-cost cards to gain mana with the commander, and then storm through the entire deck and just find one of the various win conditions this deck has to offer. So, first and foremost, God of Storytelling. The relevant text on this card is the first half, where this is a 3-mana 3/3 that says whenever you cast a spell, any spell, add 1 red mana, and then until end of turn you don't lose this mana as steps and phases. And this can be relevant, but for the most part you don't need that part too much. And the commander has a backside, Harmful Horn of Bounty, a 5-mana artifact that says discard a card, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn. We're essentially never going to cast the backside in this deck because the whole deck is built around having the front side on the field. So traditionally, Storm operates on, like, for a Storm deck to work, you need 2 things. You need card advantage and you need mana. And in Historic Brawl, we are lacking all the good rituals for the most part, like Rite of Flames. That's a red sorcery, I believe, that says for 1 mana you gain 2 red mana, and then more mana the more copies of Rite of Flames are in the graveyard. So we are lacking all of those fancy cards. So we really need a mana advantage engine in the command zone to make Storm work in Historic Brawl, and Birgi offers exactly that. And so the idea is that we just play Bonesaw. The text doesn't matter, it costs 0 mana. So we play Bonesaw, gain 1 mana. We play Mishra's Bauble, gain 1 mana. We play a Quarter Shield, we gain 1 mana. We play Skirk Prospector, we gain 1 mana because we can then sacrifice the Skirk Prospector to itself. And then we have a bunch of cards that just say draw a card. So 1 red mana, draw a card, right? 1 red mana, draw a card. So we have a very high density of free spells to cast. And then once we gained a bunch of mana and we drew a bunch of cards, we can search for all various win conditions or something that allows us to go positive in mana, like even more. So something along the lines of Runaway Steam-Kin is really, really good at that, because that effectively says whenever we cast a red spell, we gain a red mana. And it turns out we have a lot of red spells in the deck, so we just go up and up and up in mana. And then we have a bunch of win conditions we can find. So like Urabrask allows us to ping the opponent to death, but is also a mana engine. I think Urabrask is one of the worst win conditions because it just takes ages. We have Grapeshot, that's just a 2 mana sorcery that says deal 1 damage to any target with Storm, and Storm just says you just copy the spell for each spell cast this turn. Right, we have Fist of Flames. Target creature gains trample and +1/+0 for each card you've drawn this turn. Aetherflux Reservoir is a really solid one because that just allows us to very quickly finish off the opponent without needing to do a lot of fancy things like with Urabrask, where we still need to play 25 spells. Right? And I believe there are some more that I'm missing, but there are a couple of really solid win conditions. Oh yeah, you can just make a huge creature with Storm-Kiln Artist or an X-cost creature that we usually cast for 0 to gain mana, but if we have enough mana, we can just cast this for 30, give it haste, and kill the opponent that way. And then there are a couple of infinites in the deck, namely revolving around Grinning Ignus and Birgi, where Grinning Ignus is a 3-mana creature that can return itself for 1 mana to the owner's hand, and then gains back the 3 mana. So with Birgi in play, you can just play Ignus, return Ignus, play Ignus, return Ignus, and that goes neutral in mana, and that is relevant for Aetherflux Reservoir because now you just gain infinite life. Grapeshot, that allows you to gain infinite Storm. With Hazoret's Monument in play, that just allows you to go up in mana each time and effectively see your entire deck. You loot through your entire deck. You don't exactly have all the cards in your hand at the same time, but that doesn't matter. Where red creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, so Ignus goes mana positive for Birgi, and then whenever you cast a creature spell, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. So there are a bunch of ways to win the game, and the trickiest part of the deck is knowing when to storm off and when to just gain more and more card advantage. At the time of this recording, I believe I'm something like 36-3. You can check my Untapped GG profile on my Discord. Like, it's just a public profile, right? But the reason this is the win rate of this deck is so high is, first, I just played this deck a ton. Most people that pick up this deck struggle with the 50% win rate, and the other one is that people don't know how to play correctly against you, right? That is a big part in why this deck performs well. And the deck is also placed very low in the queue in Historic Brawl, so you're not going to see too many strong matchups for this deck. But yeah, overall, it is just really tricky to know when to pop off, when to just gain card advantage, right? Like, sometimes you just want to sit back and just cast a Pirate's Pillage to set up for next turn, draw an additional card effectively, and gain a bunch of mana to, you know, just set up. And yeah, that is effectively Birgi Storm in Historic Brawl. Hope you will enjoy the upcoming video. If you do, consider liking, subscribing to the channel, and join the Discord. The Discord is great. I just mostly keep my decks updated there. If something is not updated, just ask me on the Discord. I will see what I can do, right? And let's play some Birgi Storm in Historic Brawl. Enjoy. Exciting news, everyone. I'm going to host a no-ban Historic Brawl tournament on the 26th of August. Free to enter with prizes. You even get prizes for just playing out all your matches. No ban in this context means Oko is legal, original, Winota, all the fun stuff. Hope to see you there, and enjoy the video. We are ready to play against Klothys, God of Destiny, which should be a solid matchup. They are not going to have a lot of instant speed interaction. I will not play Birgi and just pass the turn and hope that Birgi sticks in this matchup, because they have a lot of sorcery speed interaction for her, but not so much instant speed. I think I like this hand. I'm still unsure of whether or not to play out this defense grid. It might also be that they're on land destruction. I've seen that quite a lot of times with a deck like Klothys. So we will have to watch out for that. So yeah, the question is whether or not to play this defense grid. So I usually like to cast these like Reckless Impulse and Rent's Resolve on turn 3 when we also have a land drop to make, so it's really easy for us to actually cash in the cards. And I think we can take the time off to just, you know, do this. If they play a land destruction spell here, Stone Rain I believe is the only possible one right now. That would be kind of annoying, but I think we can deal with that. Oh, interesting. So whether or not to crack this Chromatic Sphere is an interesting question, because we don't want to overdraw, right? Oh yeah, that is just a fantastic draw. So this just allows us to set up for future turns. We're going to do the exact same next turn with the Reckless Impulse. Just go ahead on get more and more card advantage. This is also an interesting one. I believe I just want to big score, and Electric Revelation is the worst one here, because it goes at -2 in mana when Birgi is in play, and Light Up the Stage is actual card advantage, whereas Electric Revelation doesn't do too much. Them slowly exiling our graveyard is somewhat relevant. Like we are pretty reliant on our graveyard Are we going to die next turn? So this does 2, 6, 10, 13. Yeah, I think it has to be go time because we're dead next turn. So let's start on drawing an additional card. Birgi. Let's see what we get with the crash through. Urabrask is basically perfect because now we get to do ridiculous things. So Urabrask has a lot of additional text that we're most of the time not going to use, but the important part is every time we cast an instant or sorcery, we deal the opponent 1 damage and we gain a red mana. And the 1 damage here is really relevant as well right now for the Light of the Stage Spectacle trigger. So Light up the stage, drawing 2 cards for 1 mana, gaining 1 mana effectively. So Cleansing Wildfire here is here to target our own lands to increase the amounts of cards in our graveyard. That is relevant for a bunch of stuff. So the question is, so we can just play this for Storm. Let's cycle here. Chromatic Star is free. That is just a redraw. That's what's in the graveyard. I'm looking for this, looking at this finale of Promise here. So now exile this Shatterskull Smashing to March of Reckless Joy to go up in mana again. We did not manage to hit a land off of that, which would be really good. Well, that is just an easy victory, I would say, because we get to pass in flames. Now every spell in our graveyard gains flashback, so that was a good reason to not just use the Strike and Rich as a card to up the storm count. Yeah, and now we just double cast. So the way we actually win apart, you know, from pinging down the opponent with Urabrask, the fast way here is just double cast, and we can copy a big score. That way we gain a ton of mana, gain a ton of cards in hand, and then just Aetherflux Reservoir, cast a bunch of spells and win the game. GG. We are ready to play against Etali Primal Conqueror, and the same concept applies here. Although they are lower on interaction than Colossus, I assume. So I am going to run out the Birgi here early. Faithless Looting is not a card you can just throw out in this kind of deck for the most part. Faithless Looting is really powerful in the right spots, but card quantity is so massive for this deck that I actually have a higher win rate on the draw than on the play. And I know I currently only have 3 losses with this exact version, but that has always been true for any iteration of the deck. So you really need to like respect how important card advantage is in this deck, and Eye of Vecna is perfect for that. I assume they have a Lightning Bolt, how like since they just pause here and whatnot, so we are actually not going to run out Birgi on 3, and we are just going to effectively milk this Eye of Vecna, if that makes sense. So just go up in cards and just do the card advantage thing. Again, Faithless Looting, we can still use that later, no need to rush it. And I currently don't even have cards I really want to discard, right? The cards you generally want to discard early are your win conditions, because winning is actually the easy part with the deck. It is just really important to know when to take your window of storming off and how to set it up correctly, right? Those are the really important skills with this deck. And a consideration I had for this deck was the One Ring, because it's somewhat similar to Eye of Vecna, but Eye of Vecna just being able to... ooh. So that's an Atali next turn. That is fine. I think we can't go off here because, again, they have what I assume to be a lightning bolt. Okay. Electrostatic Blast is a good one to just play at the opponent's... Oh no, I can't play it in the opponent's sets. Let's just Electrostatic Blast here to their face, so we don't draw. We don't overdraw. So we can play Birgi. We have one additional mana open. We can cast Faithless Looting. We cast Basking Rootwater off of that. Oh, they are just going to do this, huh? I think I will do something... we can't just go in and in on this Eye of Vecna effectively. Yeah, let's just do that. So... I think I'm fine running out the Birgi here, since we drew the Mox Amber. Give them priority, they will likely lightning bolt that. That is fine. And then what do we discard? I think we are discarding the mountain, because this Mox Amber in hand represents one additional mana. And now if we don't die here, that's great. That is great, perfect. That gets, all of that gets copied one additional time because of Null Fashni. Yep. And now I know that Birgi will resolve again. So it was really important for me to let them use the lightning bolt before we wanted to pop off. Another consideration was to just throw in the Storm-Kiln Artist, but I didn't want to pop the Electrostatic Blast trigger just yet. So now we are going to Faithless Looting. Yep. We do not need Blazing Rootwater. Well, we actively want that in the graveyard actually. And we don't need Urabrask because we already have a Storm-Kiln Artist, which is just going to be better. So now Blazing Rootwater. Gain one additional mana from Ornithopter. Beautiful. Gain one additional mana here, and I'm going to play an additional land and now rob the archives, sacrificing Rootwater, and that is the reason why Storm-Kiln Artist is better, because Storm-Kiln Artist also triggers on copying. And that should be the game. We don't need more than one additional mana engine with Birgi in play. It is just completely overkill and unnecessary. So there is a real consideration here to just... yeah, I want to Cathartic Reunion over Rent's Resolve. Although I can just discard the Change of Fortune. Nah, let's just do it like this. Because Change of Fortune counts each card we have drawn this turn. Oh yeah, that is just very, very lethal. Don't need the mana here. So Change of Fortune twice draws a crazy amount of cards. And that is the reason we have... No, we can't cast anything in between. Draw a bunch of cards, and now since we have the quantity of cards in hand, we can just go ahead and play out the rituals. I still have a Past in Flames here, so we are not going to run out of cards. Invoke Calamity is just crazy, so we get to cast 2 of these cards. How many cards in deck? Let's just cast a Change of Fortune. And let's just cast a not even sure. Does that kill me if I Cathartic Reunion? No, can't. We still have over half of our deck. So Cathartic Reunion first, discarding, draw 3. There goes the Underworld Breach. I don't care. So yeah, there is a what's it called? Grapeshot. Let's just do it in one go. Yep. I'm just going to run out cards until I can kill the opponent here with. Actually, there might be a faster way, because we can just Fist of Flame. Do we have something in the graveyard that gives haste? I believe we haste. No, we don't actually. Interesting. Yes. So it asks me to hold. The game sometimes likes to hold priority on certain actions, specifically increasing vengeance. The game automatically holds priority, so be aware of that. But let's just Grapeshot them. Yeah, and the reason why I kind of avoid killing people with Grapeshot is because there is a very real chance of crashing the game. Yeah, all of our haste enablers either got stolen by the opponent or are in the deck. We also haven't found Etherflux Reservoir, so Grapeshot has to do. Okay, and I assume the game crashed? No, it didn't. Amazing! Look at this. I believe the volume is a bit loud on this, but I can't go into the settings. Sorry guys, I will change it after this game. And that is the game. GG. We are ready to play against Ratadrabik of Urborg. And since Lord of the Rings got released, Ratadrabik just got a massive boost. Because now he has access to 1,000,000 infinite combos that involve creatures that when they enter the battlefield, they say the ring tempt you, right? Yeah, let's keep that on top. Okay. So, against them, I assume they have a decent amount of instant speed interaction, at least a lot of sorcery speed interaction if I had to guess. So let's respect that. And with an Ignus in play, I very much assume we can just... Oh yeah, they are setting up for an infant combo. With Ignus in hand, I mean... I assume that we can just try to go infinite and not even storm in the broadest sense here. The goal is to find a land here. Come on, draw step. Yes, beautiful. And we're just going to play out the Strike and Rich now. So yeah, it was very important here for us to crack the Chromatic Star in response to the Eye of Vecna. Otherwise we didn't have the mana to even draw the land in the first place. So this is an interesting stacks piece. Also that just kills us. Yeah, we're dead next turn. We are dead to Corpse Knight, Redodrabic, Boromir. So we have to pop off now. Very interesting. Low resources. Okay, let's see. The way their combo works is whenever a creature enters the battlefield under their control, they're going to drain me. And they are going to play a land. And the land they play is... then they are going... Come on. They're going to play land and then play the commander, and then they can sacrifice Boromir. Then the ring tempts you, that tempts Boromir again, that makes Boromir legendary again. They can infinitely sacrifice this card effectively. We have to target Skrull with this or our own Birgi, otherwise they can just give the other cards protection from red, and then the Renegade Tactics fizzles. Let's set up the Faithless Looting. I really like to just hold off on Relay is too slow, we're going to die next turn. I really like to hold off on the land drop. For the record, I think we cannot... Oh, this is just so awkward, right? It's either Light Up or Bitter Reunion, if I had to guess. Copying Light Up the stage is kind of bad. So we are going to make a play that's a bit annoying. Let's say annoying. But sadly, this is the optimal way to play it out. So we are going to Grinning Ignus a bunch of times, let's say 25 times, and then we're going to discard the Ignus to a Bitter Reunion. And the reason why we're doing this is we want to discard the Ignus to the Bitter Reunion anyways, but as an in-between step, we are going to build enough Storm count that if we happen to draw Grapeshot off of this, we are just going to kill the opponent. So that is the big idea. So I'm just gonna skip that part in the video and then do the Storm count thing, and I will see you soon. Oh, I forgot to mention something. Animations go faster if you hold a card in hand. So you see how Grinning Ignus returns quite slowly, like then returns to hand. If during that animation we hold a card on our cursor, that animation goes faster. Look at this. Do you see this? Just one more for comparison. This is without holding it on the cursor. And then we do one again with a card on the cursor. Much faster. And that goes for a bunch of animations. Doesn't go for Storm. It goes for certain, like, I haven't figured out how, like, what goes faster and what doesn't, but generally, like, if you resolve a Galvanic Relay or just put a bunch of cards into exile, right? Like, if you resolve this card, for example, then the cards get put into exile faster. But if you cast a Grapeshot and kill them, if you hold a cursor, card on the cursor, at that point it doesn't go faster. So quite weird. Also very neat. We can see our Storm count right here. We were almost finished. Anyways. So now the big moment has come. The question is whether or not we want to Crystal Grotto first, and I believe we do that for the Scry. To the bottom with you. The one issue with that is obviously that we are just going to be way low on cards. Just one additional card is so massive, which is why I really prefer casting my lands from exile. So we currently don't even have the double red here. And I believe we fizzled. We can still Faithless Looting and then just Faithless Looting into a 0-drop and Grapeshot. But it is going to be very unlikely. Yeah, I believe we're about to die next turn. But I guess make them have the land drop. Yeah, we fizzled. It is quite painful. And that is the game. So again, just to show how their combo works. Retrodrabic says, whenever another legendary creature you control dies, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's not legendary and it is a 2/2 black zombie in addition to its other. So, types and whatever. So Boromir dies and sacrifices itself so to make everything else indestructible, and returns as a non-legendary creature. But Boromir says, the ring tempts you as the last line of the sacrifice clause, and that means that they get to choose a new ring bearer. And the first line of that text is, your ring bearer is legendary. So now Boromir enters and makes himself legendary again. So you can, so they can infinitely sacrifice this Boromir over and over. And since they have a Corpse Knight that says, you know, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. We are dead. Anyways, GG. We are ready to play against a Moti Celebrant of Bounty, and that should be a very good matchup for us. I think it's a solid hand. Let's just keep it. I'm going to hold off on the Mishra's Bauble for 1 turn. See if we draw a land or not. Now, holding the Mishra's Bauble or not becomes a bit more interesting. Whether or not we want to use it for mana or cards. Let's see. What are we drawing here? Another star. Let's do this. What are we drawing with this? That's a Grey Havens. So against the Modi specifically, we're going to have a lot of time. Well, they're not going to interact very much with us, so we are going to just jam a turn to Birgi and then try to pop off with that. A turn 3 Birgi into turn 4 lethal specifically is what we're trying to do. And we're like heavily favored in this kind of matchup. I think, yeah, we have enough cards in hand that we just want mana at this point. That is mana. It is also just very tempting to, since they're again not going to interact next turn, they're just going to jam in Modi. It is very tempting to just go Faithless Looting into Faithless Looting again, Sculpt our hand. Although I think I just like going for Rent's Resolve. Oh, does that do it? We are, yeah, that does it. Nice. So Ugin's Conjurant, Mountain, Artist, Looting, Rent's Resolve, and then try to pop off from there. Yep. We don't need these lands. Let's see if we find something here. But if not... No, this is just lethal. Because Grapeshot allows us to do some really nasty stuff with the Storm-Kiln Artist. We're going to kill their Caryatid, and the question is not whether or not to. The question is whether or not to destroy our own Blazing Rootwaller. We have cards that allow us to sacrifice Rootwaller in order to utilize it with casualties. With casualty, like the mechanic casualty. And in graveyard we can use it for cards like Underworld Breach. So that is the consideration. Now we can We're going to save 1 mana. Doesn't matter if they get to discard whatever card they have in hand. And yeah, that should do it, because we are going to search for Past in Flames, Change of Fortune, and let's see, Increasing Vengeance. So Past in Flames allows us to flashback each instant or sorcery in our graveyard, and then the idea behind Increasing Vengeance and Change of Fortune is that we discarded a bunch of cards this turn already. So first we're going to make mana. We can flashback the Grapeshot, but we can also just use that for lethal, so whatever you prefer. So we start on Warlord's Fury, draw 1 card, gain +1 mana. Thrill of Possibility, go neutral mana, discard 1, draw 2. Rand's Resolve, right? Faithless Looting. And then as the last thing we want to do is just like Change of Fortune, and then copy that with Increasing Vengeance. And then Increasing Vengeance says whenever this spell is cast from a graveyard, copy that spell twice instead. So we're going to Change of Fortune 3 times in total, which means, let's say we discarded 4, have 2 in hand, that discard 6 effectively, draw 6, discard 6, draw 12, discard 12, draw 24. I think that's how it works. So we're effectively seeing our whole deck draw a bunch of cards, storm out, and win the game. GG. We are done with the games. I hope you enjoyed them as much as I did. And that is Birgi, God of Storytelling Storm in Historic Brawl. Very, very cool archetype. I love this deck. It is one of my most worked on decks in the past years, ever since Birgi was released, really. And yeah, I just love this deck. What can I say? It is Storm, it is all the degenerate stuff I love to do in Magic, and yeah, hope you can appreciate that as well. If you want to play this deck on a budget, it is tough, but not too tough. So the good thing is there are not that many rares and mythics compared to your average Historic Brawl deck. The downside is that the rares and mythics this deck does use are pretty important, because this is a critical mass deck. First and foremost, let's get the cards out of the way that you can 100% cut, in my opinion. Defense Grid, Eye of Vecna, Shatterskull Smashing, Valakut Awakening as well. Like, if you cast something like Valakut Awakening where you're already in a bad spot, or like really winning and nothing really in between, because this goes -2 in mana, and you really don't want to do that for the most part. Like, you prefer to cast 2 2-mana spells over 1 3-mana spell. And then Fervent Mastery. Like, these easy cuttable in my opinion. And then Grapeshot and Aetherflux are also pretty cuttable. You do have other win conditions, but like, not running Grapeshot or Aetherflux locks you out of certain lines, like we did in the video, where you can Grinning Ignus over and over, then discard it and hope to top deck one of these for a small chance to actually kill the opponent. But that it is not too relevant, so you don't need an Aetherflux and you don't need a Grapeshot. Not running either of one can be tricky, but you can definitely cut one of them. And for the rest, they're pretty important. Like, you are a critical mass deck. Change of Fortune, I guess you can also cut, but you can do some really, really nasty stuff with that card. Just draw your entire deck at once, and it is pretty great. For the rest, like, this deck, you have to realize, right? This deck is already running like 10 filler cards that are just there because I couldn't find anything better. Something like Fast and Furious, Electric Revelation, Valakut Awakening, right? All these cards that go -2 in mana when you cast them are really not where you want to be. Like, as a card advantage spell specifically, right? Change of Fortune is kind of special because the card in the right setting draws so many cards that it doesn't really matter that you go down on cards, because you will just find more 0-drops. So you effectively reduce the cost of Change of Fortune. Like if you draw 12 with this, draw 2 0-drops, you go +2 in mana. So this effectively costs really 2 mana in that scenario, and then you just still pop off, right? So these like if it's a land here, just replace it with a mountain. Otherwise, I don't know, you can just play the One Ring, play Reckoner Bankbuster over Eye of Vecna, although like Eye of Vecna is infinitely better because you just immediately draw 1 card when it enters play as well. Defense Grid, there's nothing like Defense Grid that you can replace it with. Just play whatever you want. These are mostly dead cards during combos anyways. Like Defense Grid, you draw that during a combo, it's basically worse than a land. So yeah, that is the deck. Hope you enjoyed the video, hope you enjoyed the little budget section I did here at the end. I know that it is a pretty popular thing. Like I know a lot of people just click the start of the video, look at the deck, and then click off at the end of the video, and then just see, hey, I want to play this on a budget. What can I do to do so? And yeah, Birgi Storm is a pretty good one to play, or like a craft if you like Storm, but just be wary that like just be aware of that of the fact that any card you craft for this deck you're really not gonna use in other decks, right? Like for the most part, unless you're planning on like playing other Storm decks. But even then, like an Astral Cornucopia or just like an Evoke Calamity, things like that, you're really not going to use in a lot of other lists. So yeah, it's a great deck if you like Storm. Anyways, see you in the next video. Goodbye.